The Crooked Man and Strange Animal. You can see, dear Watson, that the case is rather interesting, but when I learned the details, I realized that it was extraordinary. First, I questioned the servants, but they told me nothing new. Only one servant, Jane Stewart, remembered an interesting detail. She heard that the lady said the name David twice. The colonel's name, you remember, was James. There was one more thing in the case. The servants and the police were shocked by the colonel's face. It had the most dreadful expression of fear. The police had a theory that the colonel's wife had killed him, but the poor woman couldn't explain anything. She was absolutely ill and nearly out of reason. From the police, I learned that Miss Morrison said that she had no idea why Mrs. Barclay got angry with the colonel. I had to think before I could put all the facts in order. The missing door key, that was the most important point. It didn't disappear, somebody had taken it. It means there was a third person in the room, and that third person came in through the window. You know my methods, Watson. I examined the traces on the lawn. I know there was a man in the room. I found his footmarks, one on the road, 2 on the lawn, and 2 near the window. But it was not the man who surprised me. It was his companion. His companion, I cried. Holmes took some cloth out of his pocket. What do you make of that? He asked. The paper was covered with footmarks of some small animal. It had long nails on its feet. It's a dog, said I. Did you ever hear of a dog running up a curtain? I found its marks on the curtains. A monkey then, but it's not the print of a monkey. What can it be then? Neither dog, nor cat, nor monkey, nor creature that people keep as a pet. I think the creature is about 2 feet long. Maybe it has a tail. The animal has a long body and very short legs. What a pity I haven't found any of his hair. And it's a meat-eater. Why do you think so? Because it ran up the curtain. A bird's cage was in the window, and it wanted to get the bird. Then what was the beast? That's the problem. But why is it so important for you, Holmes? I don't know the answer, but I'm sure of it. We have learnt a lot. We know that a man stood in the road. He was looking at the quarrel between the Barclays. We know also that he ran across the lawn, got into the room, had a strange animal with him. Then, did he strike the colonel with his club? Did the colonel fall down when he saw the stranger? I don't know yet. Finally, we have the fact that the man carried away the key. I think your discoveries made the case more difficult than it was before, said I. You're right, but it means that the case is much more difficult than I thought first. But really, Watson, it's too late. I'll tell you my ideas on our way to Aldershot tomorrow. Thank you, my dear friend, but you have stopped at the most interesting place. Can you tell me some more now? Well, I'm sure that when Mrs. Barclay left the house at 7:30, she wasn't angry with her husband at all. The servants say that she was never angry and always spoke with her husband in a friendly way. But when she returned home, she went to the sitting room. It means she didn't want to see her husband. She asked for tea. It means she was unhappy. When the colonel came into the sitting room, the scandal began. I can see that something happened between 7:30 and 9 o'clock. She turned into a different woman, angry and aggressive. But Miss Morrison was with the lady all the evening. She knew something but didn't want to tell. So I decided to talk to Miss Morrison. I was sure she knew something and explained to the young women that Mrs. Barclay was in great danger. She is ill and even can't help herself. I promised my friend that I would say nothing, and a promise is a promise, said she. But if I can really help her, I will tell you what happened on Monday evening. We were returning from the meeting. On our way, we had to pass through Hudson Street. It's a very quiet place. There's only one lamp in it. When we came up to the lamp, I saw a man. He was coming to us, with his back very bent. He was carrying a box. His back was so deformed that we couldn't see his face, and he could hardly walk. Suddenly, he looked at us. He stopped and screamed in a dreadful voice, "My God, it's Nancy!" Mrs. Barclay turned as white as death. I was going to call for the police, but she, to my surprise, spoke to the man. "I thought you had been dead these 30 years, Henry," she said in a shaking voice. "So I have," said he. He had a very dark face, like in a bad dream. His hair was grey, and he looked a very old man. "Can you walk on a little way, dear?" said Mrs. Barclay to me. "I want to have a word with this man. There's nothing to be afraid of." She tried to speak quietly, but she was still white and trembling. I did as she asked me, and they talked together for a few minutes. She didn't say a word on our way home. At my door, she took me by the hand and asked me not to tell what had happened. "I have known him for a long time. He has been so unlucky," she said. I promised her I would say nothing. She kissed me, and I have never seen her since. As you see, Watson, it was like a light on a dark night. I had to find the man. But was he still in Aldershot? I spent a day, and by evening, this very evening, Watson, I found him. His name is Henry Wood. He has only been 5 days in the town. The man is a travelling magician. In the evening he performs in the cafes and restaurants. He carries some strange creature in his box, and he uses it in some of his tricks. Sometimes he speaks in a strange language, and for the last 2 nights he had been heard crying in his bedroom. The maid said he paid a strange coin for the room. It was an Indian rupee, Watson. So now, my dear friend, you know everything. You can see that after the ladies went home, this man followed them. He saw the quarrel between husband and wife through the window. Then he ran into the room, and that creature escaped from the box. That is all very certain, but he is the only person in this world who can tell us exactly what happened in that room. And are you going to ask him? Yes, and I need a witness. But how do you think he'll be there? I told one of my Baker Street boys to watch him. We shall find him in Hudson Street tomorrow, Watson. Let's go to sleep.